Friday marks the 56th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. The 1965 law was key to curbing racial discrimination in voting. Decades later, activists are still fighting for voting rights. According to the Brennan Center, at least 18 states have enacted 30 laws restricting access to the vote so far this year. Some of them limit things like mail voting and early voting. On Thursday, Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott announced another special legislative session with the state's controversial voting bill on the agenda. Last month, state Democrats fled Texas to prevent a vote on that bill. Later this month, civil rights organizations are coming together for March On for Voting Rights. It will take place August 28th in cities across the country. That day is the anniversary of the 1963 March on Washington, where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Arndrea Waters King joins me now. She is president of the Drum Major Institute, which was founded by Dr. King in 1961. It is one of the organizations involved in planning March On for Voting Rights. Arndrea, welcome. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Elaine.
So first, I want to get your response to this news out of Texas. In a statement, you and your husband, Martin Luther King III, said, quote, "We stand together with millions of our brothers and sisters who will be impacted by these Jim Crow 2.0 laws and urge everyone to play a role in making it easier to vote, not harder." How critical do you believe demonstrations like March On for Voting Rights are now?
You know, I think that these type of demonstrations are extremely not only important, but critical, to use your term. There is no greater threat to our democracy than the limits of voting and to the voting box. And for people to come out in masses, unlike anything we've ever seen, to stand and say that we are for protecting the right to vote, that we are for laws that help to lift us all up and not limit us, that will send a message to all of our elected officials. That will send a message even to our children. It will send a message around the world about, and it will also, once again, empower the people to have a voice in our democracy.
Well, how did organizers decide where these marches should happen? Because we mentioned they're going to be taking place in cities across the country.
They are. They're going to be taking place in 5 flagship cities, as well as sister marches. And as of yesterday, we have activations in 30 cities across America, in almost every state. But the 5 flagship cities were chosen because of the fact of, you were talking earlier about legislation that has been passed that restricts the rights of voting. And we chose these 5 flagship cities because in these states, there are laws on the books that have been passed to restrict the access to the ballot. And we're coming together in particular in those areas to stand against that. And in DC, because that is ground zero for this battle, as well as for Washington statehood, which we feel is an extraordinary important issue as well.
We've heard activists talk about this issue time and time again, but what is the message you hope that these marches specifically send?
I think that the greatest message that we hope that these marches will send is to show that the torch has indeed been passed to a new generation. We understand through the King legacy that it's really up to each one of us and to each generation to continue to build the flame, to keep the eternal flames of peace, justice, and equity going. And if for no other reason, to show that we as a generation, that this moment in time is up to us to continue to fan those flames for peace, justice, and equity. Martin's father talked about also in one of his last speeches at the National Cathedral about sleeping through a revolution. And he talked about Rip Van Winkle and used an analogy of him sleeping through a revolution. And we actually right now we are in a revolution. We hope that this is ultimately a revolution of values so that we can truly make America what she ought to be. And we hope that we're sending a message. I think there's been a lot of controversy about the term woke or what is, being awake. But certainly we hope that people are awake in the fact of not sleeping through a revolution and to take their turn in fanning the flames and keeping the flames of peace and justice and equity alive.
I want to ask you about public opinion on this. According to recent CBS News polling, 88% of people agree that the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was necessary. 63% of people said they think federal laws are necessary now. What do you make of this?
I think that our elected officials should listen to the people that put them in office. I think that people are very aware. They're very smart and educated about this issue. And if the people on the ground, people are saying that this is something that we're concerned about, that those that we've placed in positions of power should listen. It also shows us that history is on our side and that the public sentiment is on our side. So even if, as we're coming out and speaking, if some people in Congress or in the Senate are a little bit ambivalent about their constituencies, this shows that overwhelmingly that they do support the type of legislation that we're coming together in support of on August 28th all around this nation.
Well, you met with lawmakers last week to discuss voting rights legislation. What came out of that meeting?
Well, one of the things, I think it was important for us to go and talk to lawmakers, and we made a very intentional effort to talk to both sides of the aisles. I mean, I think everyone knows that, that we are in the most, the bipartisanship is really at its the least that it's been at in decades. So it's important to still reach out across the aisle. One of the things I think that we came away with most is that there are lawmakers that are trying and continuing to push this and to push legislation, but also that it's important to all of us to come out and show our support so that they could have the power that they need when they go back into the halls of Congress to show that their constituents do support this.
You kind of hesitated off the top when I first asked you that question, Arndrea. I wonder why. What's going through your mind?
I really wish that we could have walked away last week with a certain path to victory. But it's going to take all of us really coming together. It's going to take us to continue to push. So the hesitancy was, I think, there was a desire that we wouldn't have to continue to push so hard. I am a mother of a 13-year-old, and as soon as before we got home, she was on the phone and asking about every single meeting and what every senator said and what every congressperson said. And there's a part of me as a mother that wished that we would not have to continue to have these conversations with our children, that they would not have to be concerned about the state of the world and the state of affairs. So there is that, but ultimately there is the overall belief in every fiber of my being that we, in fact, will endure, that we will press ahead, and that we will see victories in this particular struggle.
Arndrea Waters King, thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.